time, we will also need support from the central government agencies like BIRAC, DBT, and all these agencies. So we have with us today two speakers with us, Dr. Shendu Mukherjee, Mission Director for BIRAC, and Dr. Sanjay Saxena. These two people will be guiding you basically what are the how to write a grant proposal and what are the opportunities available for young researchers or any guides who want to take up research and apply for these grants. So these things, before we go on to the details, I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to give a foreword, and then we will start off with Dr. Shishendu Mukherjee's talk on how to write for a grant. Dr. Sachidanand, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shanai. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to have all of you on this lovely afternoon. Today, we have organized this program in conjunction with the Padma Shri Institute of Allied Sciences, wherein Dr. Shanai has taken a lead in organizing this Vidyanupalana. And we have with us two eminent speakers. Listening from horse's mouth is always a value-added thing. Today, we'll be listening from both of them. Dr. Shirshendu Mukherjee, who's the director of Grand Challenge India, and he's been with Welcome DBT Trust for quite a long time, and he will be speaking to us on how to write a funding proposal. And Dr. Sanjay Saxena, General Manager and Head Investment Biotechnology Industry, he would be talking to us on funding schemes offered by BIRAC. It's so often that many a times when we interact with our faculty, maybe it's true of many other health universities also, but the faculty have ideas with them, but they don't know how to, go ahead with it. And mainly because I find that they always put the funds in front of their mind. They think we don't get the funding, we'll not be able to raise some, source of grants, and then the idea fizzles out, or they just keep quiet. And I'm told that funds are not a problem if you have got a good idea, good this thing. You could always translate it into a research item, and then later on bring it into clinical usage or whatever. It could be a drug, it could be a device, it could be a thing. So that is what is Rajiv Gandhi University. The last 5 years has been in the forefront of granting research grants to its faculty members. I was mentioning to Dr. Shirshendu earlier that on an average, between 100 to 150 projects are being funded by RGHS every year, which is now, most of them are being published, and a few of them are also being patented. So, which has created a rich culture, academic culture in the university. Added to this, we wanted to train the young minds also. So, we've introduced undergraduate research projects. We are funding, like ICMR, we are also funding undergraduate projects. And you'll be surprised. The very first year, we have sanctioned around 300 projects, undergraduate projects. And now this year, it's doubled. Number is almost 500 plus. So many undergraduates are now, when 500 is being awarded, you can imagine how many are interested to apply. So that sort of a culture we have created across the faculty, my medical, dental, nursing, pharmacy, all of them are. So this is what should happen everywhere. I hope it happens everywhere. And these young minds, when we teach them, when they become postgraduates and faculty later on, they would carry on that legacy, what they have learned in the undergraduate period, and create a lot of. So I would request, without much ado, I would request both the speakers to deliver the lecture. We would like to hear from you. And I'm sure all the faculty are also and very eager to listen to both of you. And I would request from university side, if you give us some material, we would circulate it to all the faculty members so that it doesn't end at this point. It should continue. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Dr. Shanai. I wish to function all the thing. And nice meeting Dr. Shirshendu and Dr. Sanjay Saxena.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you, sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you, sir. Pleasure meeting you, sir.
We will start off with the first talk from Dr. Shirshendu Mukherjee. Dr. Mukherjee, trained as a medical microbiologist, brings him with more than 25 years of experience in academic institutes, pharma companies, and a decade-long experience in national, international, philanthropic, and government funding agencies and has been instrumental in supporting the innovation ecosystem in India and beyond. Dr. Mukherjee is currently the Mission Director of Grand Challenges India, which has been recently announced now. The 17th Grand Challenge has been announced now, and the flagship program of the partnership between Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the Wellcome Trust. This platform supports the initiative that could dramatically change the health and development landscape in India. He also heads the Intellectual Property and Technology Transfer and Communications Division in BIRAC. In addition to the above, Dr. Mukherjee also leads the National Health Authority Ayushman Bharat Startup Grand Challenges program from BIRAC. Dr. Mukherjee holds a PhD in microbiology, law graduate, leadership course from Syed Business School, University of Oxford, and Global Health, leadership course from London School of Health and Tropical Medicine. Dr. Mukherjee is also a registered technology transfer professional certified by Alliance of Technology Transfer Professionals, and is also an honorary scientific advisor to the Indian Patent Office. Dr. Mukherjee is also the country ambassador in India for Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. He is also the General Secretary of the Society for Technology and Management Professionals. Now I request Dr. Mukherjee to take over and start his talk.
Thank you, Dr. Shenoy. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Shenoy, my dear friend Anura, distinguished faculties, students, it is indeed my pleasure to be present here today in the Vidyanupalana lecture series, and myself and my colleague, Dr. Sanjay, is delighted to be here today. What we plan to do, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor just said, that what we want to do is just to, give you a taster of how being working in a funding agency for now almost a decade and a half or plus is we look at almost 1,000+ grant applications each year. And what we intend to do is to tell you what are some of the tips we find lacks sometimes in the grant application, which you follow, can really help you to improve your grant applications. And as Honorable Vice Chancellor said, that these days innovation linked with basic research, translational research is very important to see how your research can move to a fruitful end. And that is the idea which each funding agencies these days look out in, whether it be a state funding agencies or the philanthropic or any other funding agency, generally look at that. So I think that's what we are going to discuss in next 25 to 30 minutes, where I'm going to speak. And then we will have an interactive session for 10-15 minutes. And then my colleague Sanjay will talk to you about how to get that money from various spots. And he will introduce you to the various schemes which we run. Can I have my next slide, please? So this is a very important saying. So we should always remember this in mind, that there is no grantsmanship that will turn a bad idea into a good one. So remember that. But there are many ways to disguise a good idea. There are many ways to disguise a good idea, and where you might have a brilliant scientific idea. But if you are not able to produce that scientific idea into a couple of pieces of paper, can I have a full screen, please? Yeah, thank you. Couple of pieces of paper, I think our idea just fails. So that is what the grantsmanship you need to develop. And the other thing which you should remember is, because your application, when it goes out, you submit to a funding agency, it is read by 5 to 6 reviewers who don't know you. They can't see your face. They will read just the paper which you have submitted or a soft copy which comes to them. So you should be able to express them. And here, the analogy which I always give to my, when I run the grant writing workshops or grant clinics, which generally these grant writing workshop, which myself and Sanjay regularly do, is justly I speak on the grant writing part, he speaks on the schemes, and then we do a grant clinic, where it is almost one-to-one discussion on whether your application is fitting into one of the schemes or not. In confidentially, we discuss that. And also we do a hands-on workshop where we give them grant applications, a template of our grant application, ask them to write, and then we critique it. But that is done very physically, and we'll be happy to sometimes, when the situation normalizes, come over to Bangalore and we can do it at your place as well. So that we can do. But just before start winning a grant application is, I always tell them how compelling story you can build around your science. Remember that. How compelling story you build around your science. Story in the sense of what is the unmet need, what is the science, and what is the issues, how you want to scale up your science, how you want to deliver your science. So story should be framed around that. And story means, I will again give you a very, very common example, which I always do, and in all the applications. In the younger days, we used to listen to fairy tales. Fairy tales used to start with once upon a time, and used to end. So once upon a time, there was a king and a queen. Our younger days, our parents used to tell us before we used to go to sleep or something. And then it used to end by happily lived ever after. And we used to force our parents to read us the next line of the story, read the next line of the story. Or any good novel you take, which really forces you to finish the novel before you go to sleep, or you will be attracted to that novel. So writing a grant application is such type of storytelling. You should force your reviewer or the funding agency to read the full application and to read what is interesting thing about your science, which are going to tell you. So in the next couple of slides, I'll try to tell you how you should write this story so that your reviewers are compelled to read it fully. The funding agency is forced to fund you to take your innovative science, innovative program to the next level. Can I have my next slide, please? So if you see my the next slide. So when you start working on any scientific problem, any problem, you can categorize your problem in one of these three categories. You might be in your discovery phase, which we also call it as basic research. You might be in your translational phase, which you may call it as a developmental research. Or you might be in your delivery phase, which might call it a validation research, a clinical trial, or a research which needs strong validation, market validation, whatever it is. So I think broadly, if you carry your science, it will be under these three phases. It might be basic research, development research, or delivery research. So let us start and find out if we are in the first segment. You're starting a basic research problem. You have finished your undergraduate or postgraduate, and you just became a faculty, or you are undergraduate and you want to start a research problem. We have a lot of funding initiatives where we are funding undergraduates as well. So which Sanjay will speak to about is, and before you start thinking of your research problem, the grant writing comes a bit later, but before that, you have to think of your research problem. So when you start thinking of your research problem, you have to understand that problem well. Understand the problem well means you need to do a thorough SWOT analysis of that problem. Strength, weakness, opportunities, and thrust. You need to really analyze that problem from all that angle. What does that mean? You need to see what is the landscape of that problem. I will give you an example later on to tell you how you should do it. What is the landscape of the problem? Who else works on that problem? Whether that is a very congested research area you are working in it. What do you mean by congested research area? Congested research area means that there are a lot of groups working on that space, and you are one of them. So if you're in a congested place, that doesn't mean you should not be in a congested place. But if you're in a congested research area, your science has to be at the very top. Your science has to be very top above all them. You should not duplicate any work which the other peoples are doing. You should come out with something new. Then it is good to be in the congested place. But you are in a very naive place. Then you can, do some basic work, some analytical work. For example, let me take an example of, say, I'm speaking to a medical community here. So, if you're working in, say, diabetes monitoring area or diabetes detection areas, a lot of groups are working in those spaces. So your science might be good. I'm not pushing you back not to work on those areas. But you should be really, really innovative, really, really novel. Your science should have a strong unmet position so that you can compete with that place. Similarly, if you are working on a very nice place like, say, leishmaniasis, or something like malaria, or something very, very neglected diseases, which is a problem of one of the areas, definitely you can take chances. You can really work out with, because that's not a very congested place. So the idea of me telling you understanding the problem is you should understand the problem in and out. And might be, if you follow me in these places, at the end of designing your research problem, you will yourself be very confident to take it to the next level. So understand your problem well, do the very strong and thorough literature review, analysis, who else are working on that space, what are their outcomes where, what are their challenges there. I'm telling you this because when you start writing your grant application, and if you can put these things in places, that these are the challenges, these people are working, and I am working on this, things, you will yourself feel confident. And when it comes to a funding agency, and when we read that, we'll also say that this group or this investigator has known his problem very well, has done the landscape very well. He knows what are the challenges, and he is trying to navigate those challenges and take his research problem to the next level. So that is the reason why you need to understand the problem well. Next point you should always think is, you should always think not only the 2 years of research which you are going to do, or the 2 years of the grant application which you are making, or 3 years of grant application you're making. You should think at the end, what should be after 3 years? If the research results are good, what should happen after 3 years? What should happen after 4 years? That doesn't mean that after 2 years of our funding, or the funding agency's funding, we will ask you to show a product into the shelf, or a product into a clinic, or something like that. We are trying to de-risk your program. So what you should think is, when I complete my research, this research gets completed, what will be the dynamics of my solution which I come out? For example, you are working on a medical device, or a diagnostic tool, or a drug discovery platform, or a new drug entity, or a vaccine, whatever it is, and you are just a basic research platform you're doing. In 2 years' time, you're not going to roll out your drug or your vaccine. It will take 5, 7, 8 years. But you should tell us, or you should have a story of what will happen in the next step if your science is successful, say in 2 years. So some science, you can produce some data in 2 years. What will be the next step? So that you understand that what should be, how it should be. You will publish it, or you will just publish it and forget about it. So you should think broadly where your science will lead to in coming next 5, 6 years. Of course, if the results are good in the first level of funding, say in 2 years. Then look at what are the risks involved into it. Always scientific programs which we fund, of the 100 applications, and Sanjay is going to talk about it. 100 application we receive, there is a success rate of 5, 7, 8, 9%, which gets funded. Out of those, only 2 to 3% or 5% really generates data and go to the next level. So it is a very, very, very challenging areas we all work on. But that is the risk proposition you should really define within yourselves. And you should really calculate those risk areas, that these are the risks in this science. If this result doesn't come through, and this science will not work around. That's absolutely fine. And all the basic research grants are there to take risks. You're not taking a bank loan or something. These are grants. So which we are taking, if the science is strong, we are going to support you. Then comes a very important thing of infrastructure. What research infrastructure you need while running your science, you should be very well aware of. That doesn't mean that you should all have your research infrastructure within your lab or within your institute. No. And if you require very high value research equipment, sometimes it may not be funded. But you should tell us that you will require this research equipment or this infrastructure. You don't have it in your lab, but there is an Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore which might have it, or there is a CRO in Bangalore which might have it. I will go there, get a timeshare, pay some excess fee, and get it done and build that excess fee in your research grant. So there, if you see, then you are upfront telling the funding agency that I am aware of what the equipments I need. This is not with me, and nor I'm asking my grant to give that equipment to me. But I know that the X group, X Research Medical College has it, X Medical Institute has it, or a CRO has it. And they allow us to work on a timeshare basis on fees. We'll pay this much fees and get our analysis done there. Absolutely right. So if you're in the basic platform, so what fundamental things you should remember is you understand the problem well. Be a student of that problem and learn it well, that you are confident of what are the gap. Do a thorough landscaping of the scientific literatures, and you should be really thorough about what are the problems and what you are trying to solve and what you are trying to propose. Has to be very, very clear. Understand the pull and push mechanism, not only commercial pull and push. I'm not telling you that what will the market size and something like that, but what are the non-commercial, how can you take it, like what are the publication standards or what is the IP status and something like that. You should really be well about it. The risk analysis and the infrastructure. So if I go back to my analogy of storytelling for winning a grant application, compelling story, if you follow these paths properly, your story, you will yourself feel that your story is building. Your innovation cycle is getting completed. Because what you need is you should have a strong unmet need. You should have a scientific rationale built into your unmet need. You should understand the research landscape, you will be following it up. You should understand the risks. You should, and then you should look at the infrastructure which you look at it. If you define these 4 or 5 problems and you link it about through your science, my dear friends, you will be one step next. And your confidence level when you start writing, putting in your grant application will come up. Now, I'll go to the next step, say development or translation. If you have done your basic research, you have some data, you are now confident because you have already got some grant, which you did your validation of your data, or you got a in-house grant, as Vice Chancellor Sir was mentioning that the university gives in-house grants as well. And if you can develop those from your in-house grants and then come to a funding agency to take up your translational grants, the funding agencies also feel quite comfortable. Okay, this is a little bit, because as you see your science moving from one level to another, basically you are de-risking your science. Getting my point? So you got funded, in-house funded, then you raise some more money. So as you raise more money, the funding agency's confidence in you increases. So if you are in the translational space, there are something different landscape you need to understand. For example, what are the challenges in translation? Always the basic science data may not be very useful in translating it into a translational data, because there are different challenges in translations. So you need to understand that well. What are the I'm not going to define the challenges. Maybe do it at a separate time, sometime, or drop us a mail. But there are different challenges there in translation also. Product development is another different challenge. What should be the size of the product? How it should look at? What should be the delivery strategy? How should it be useful to handle? So there are a lot of other things. Then the IP and the regulatory challenges. Again, you might not be a good IP expert, or you might not be a regulatory expert, but try to build a team around yourself, which will help you to create a regulatory understanding. Hire a consultant and charge it to a grant application. You said, my problem requires some regulatory advice, so I will hire a consultant or bring in somebody else in the team who has a regulatory background, and try to bring that group around you. Similarly, of IP. And again, the local infrastructure, as I described, needs to be built into the system. So I will request you, my friends, if you have any questions, put it in the chat box, as Professor Shenoy mentioned. I will take up the questions after this. And I think I am conscious about the time also, but I will try to move fast. So, but this was the basic thing I just wanted to tell you, that when you start thinking about your science, you should really think about all those things before you start putting a pen into a grant application. Next slide, sir. So, once you have decided your science, your problem. Now, next come is how you should approach a funding body. There are a lot of funding agencies available. You need to approach the right sort of funding agency who are going to fund you. And this is in your interest. Why I'm telling you this? A lot of time we see at the funding agency that a grant application comes to us, and this is the not right remit of this funding agency to fund your grant application. But you have sent in your application here. After 2 months, you will get a reply from us or that funding agency that, sorry, your grant application doesn't fund our funding agency's requirements, so we are returning this. Please submit it to some other agency. So what happens is your time of 2 months or 90 days gets wasted. You lose your time, funding agency doesn't lose any time. So always try to target your application to the right sort of funding agency. Basic research, generally the government funding agencies like DBT and other state funding agencies, and BIRAC to some extent, our Ignition Grant, which Sanjay is going to talk about, are going to fund you in this space. So target that. Applied research, the government agencies like BIRAC and other funds them. But when you move over, but BIRAC has a full length of funding cycle these days. We fund from concept to reality. But you can target as venture capitals are there, equity markets are there. There are a lot. But we will talk about only the basic research and applied research. So I think we should really focus who is the right sort of funding agency. My advice to you will be, as we do as a funder, do a due diligence to you. Before we look at your grant application, we look at your credibility, your organization's credibility. You should also do a strong due diligence on the funding agency as well. What sort of projects they have funded? Can I have my next slide, sir? What sort of projects they have funded? So do a research on prospective funding bodies. Look at their websites. Look at the RFP which has come out. In detail, what is excluded, what is included, what they fund, what they do not fund. Ask people who have been funded by those bodies. Talk to them that what is the time frame required, what is the what is the review process, what sort of questions they ask when you go to the panel to discuss. So, talk to them, do a strong due diligence. And look at programs which really align with your, every funding agency is published these days, strong RFPs, which is there in the websites. Look at that, whether it's that matches with your thinking, with your funding pot, and then target it. What are the current trends? What are the current limitations and restrictions? What subject areas are awarded, funded recently? Go to the all funded projects are mentioned in the websites. What are the future plans? Who are the decision maker and what sort of review mechanisms it uses? What are the deadlines? Here I am going to tell you deadlines. Be always cautious about your deadlines. We always see everybody submits applications on the last days. Never do that. Generally, each funding scheme is open for 45 days. And we see that if we say 30th August is the last date at 4 p.m. maximum number of applications will start coming after 3 o'clock on 30th August till and then a lot of you will have a server jam or blockage. Your computer will fail. Your computer will get crashed. Never submit on the last days. Keep some time, and so I'll come to your protocol of submissions. But never submit on the deadline. Never avoid deadline submissions. This is my very, very strong advice. Avoid that. Then you should talk about how long the process takes. What is the proper way to approach those funding agencies? How many people apply each year? And you will find it in the websites and other places. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, so when you start writing the proposal, you should see that how many people will read your proposals. Generally, we call ourselves as the gatekeepers of the funding bodies because the proposal first comes to us or my colleagues who will look at it, and they will look at the remit of the proposal, whether it is right, it fits into the right funding body, the right funding scheme, what we are asking for is fit. So we do a gatekeeping. Then it goes to the reviewers. Then the reviewers are very, very diverse field of reviewers. We get core scientific reviewers in place. We have somebody from look at a broader aspect of public health, and then somebody who looks at the business angle or IP angle or whatever. So there are very diverse sets of reviewers each funding body uses to review their applications. So you need to see that it should make sense. Now, let me start from the very top of a funding application when it comes to you. So first thing is the title of the funding of the proposal which you are going to write. Now, title is very, very important. Title, remember, title should not be more than 12 to 15 words. Maximum 12, 15, try to be on 12. And very, try to see your title. And you will always find that at one go, you'll not be able to write your title. You will have a couple of iterations, 10, 12, 30 iterations to put the, come back to the right title. So title is very, very critical. Previous slide, sir. Title is very, very critical. And you have to be very, very innovative in designing your title. Talk to your friends, colleagues, how to write the title, and ask them this. Of course, your close friends, not your any friends which will try to pull you down, but talk to them and try to see that you come in a very good title, and title should be such that it helps you to, your proposal flavor should come out from it. That once I read the title, I should say, oh, it is going to, this proposal deals with this. Then, generally, next thing which you write after title is the abstract of the proposal. Very interesting. These days, all funding agencies give you what you call a word limit of say 200 words or 300 words to write your abstract. And within those 200, 300 words, you have to write your abstract. Is your proposal's entire what you call crux should come out there. And in our school days, you used to do précis writing. We used to given a long page of proposal, and we used to write it in one paragraph. So those who used to do well will be very good in writing abstracts. So abstract should say, what is your unmet need? What is the science? What is the science behind it? What are the key milestones you are going to achieve? And what is your exit strategy from this proposal? That should be a very good abstract when you try to put the abstract in place. And again, this will take some time for you to come, but try to see that this thing is really merged into and taken into. Then comes your milestones. Your milestone has to be smart. My next slide, say, Professor Shonai, next slide now. So milestone has to be smart. Smart means specific, measurable, appropriate, realistic, and time-bound. Let me tell you in a minute, what do you mean by this? We generally define, for example, it is a 2-year proposal or a 3-year proposal. We will have milestones in place, like 6 months milestones or 1-year milestones or whatever, the appropriate milestone you design. You should be smart. Smart means it should not be that first 6 months I will do review or literature or identify staff to be selected to my project, or do the whitewashing or repair my lab. These are not smart milestones. You should be really specific in defining these milestones. For example, you are trying to express a protein into a cell, and by you're getting so many milligrams of the protein as a drug or a vaccine or a diagnostic protein or whatever it is. You should say, I'm going to try to express this in a cell and trying to get that. This is specific. This is measurable. This is appropriate, this is realistic, and this is time-bound. You should be very, very specific and never underestimate your milestone. Don't think that if you write there is a 4-month milestone or a 5-month milestone, if you write it in 3 months, your funding agencies will be happy. Never do that. You should be really realistic. Put some cushion or buffer into it and define a milestone. Very, very critical. You have to be very, very measurable, and you have to write it very, very so that if you agree with me, my first statement again, I am going back to the storytelling. You will feel that if you are doing this, your confidence in your project will go up. And when we receive your application and when we read it in such a way, our confidence with you will also grow up. Because you are telling us what is the science, what is the challenges in science, which is the congestion in this science, how you're going to bypass those congestions. Then you have a very important milestone. You have abstract tells us very well, your milestones are smart. You see, you're trying to build that story very, very nicely. Next slide, sir. So before coming in the slide, I will talk to you. We write our proposals in English. Am I right? We write all our proposals in English. And sometimes, we come from different background of our education. Some has studied different languages in their school days or in their college days and things like that. Sometimes our grammar is not okay. So I think that needs to be built when you write your proposals. I'm sorry to say that, but what you should do is when you write your proposal, you write it first, cut you write, and then give it to your colleague who is a very good, or your mentor, or your professor, or your wife, or your daughter, or your son, that just read this proposal and tell me whether that is making any sense or not. Because if I am writing my proposal and if I've done some mistake in or some grammatical error in the English or something, if I read it continuously, I will not be able to catch it up. So if I give it to my close friend, who is really my friend and who really is a well-wisher to me, or to my wife, or to my mentor, or to my professor, they will really come out, okay, no, this is what it is. This doesn't make sense. Kindly correct this, kindly correct this, kindly do this. So I think that will really improve your quality. So that will really help you out to improve the quality of this proposal. And that will also, bring out the mistakes and correct. Sometimes we read, I'm sorry to say that, sometimes the title is it's the same text or words are replaced in the objectives. So when we read it, we are human beings, if you are in my place also, when we read, it just duplicates itself. So he's duplicating it. He's cut and pasting it. So we will also try, when we try reading your application, we'll try to jump lines. So try to force the gatekeeper in the funding agency as well as your reviewer to read the next line. That should be your capability to build that application in such a way that it takes up in that line. Okay. So next slide, please, sir. So these are some of the common criticisms. This is just for they don't have to read through all of them. Poorly written, lack, not well justifies, no hypothesis. These are some of the common faults. I think I need to move fast because next line, please. Next slide, please. So formats of the grant application. Next slide, sir. So if you see, these are generally the templates and any grant application of any funding agency look around world. It's cover page, table of contents, abstract, problem statement, goal, methodology, key personals. So as I described the goals and objectives, which are the milestones, you should be very clear in defining the work plan or the methodology. As clear as possible, how you are going to take, what techniques you are using, and try to cross-reference them. If it is a Laurie's method, put a reference of Laurie's, put the reference there and said you are going to use it. This is the experimental protocol you are doing to use it. Mention that very, very clearly. That again, the confidence levels goes up either at the review level or at the gatekeeping level. Key personals, very important. Try to define them very clearly. Try to sell yourself, your expertise, your strengths. If you are, say, a starter, tell that you are a starter, but you are quite inclined to do work on this. And I think Sanjay is going to talk about the grants which are available for starters as well. So you can define that very clearly there. I am starter, I am doing this. I am an undergrad student, medical student, dental student, or a pharmacy student, but I have a vision to do this. And this is my problem which I am going to target. Define that. But you are trying to build a team around yourself who will mentor you, who will guide you, to give information about those mentors, who will really handhold you and take you to the next level. So try to give their curriculum vitae, your mentors and things like that, which really helps, or your team, or your consultants which you are building in, or your partners. Try to build that in. Next slide, sir. As I told you, abstract should be standalone. That is the first level of review. Clear, concise, cover all key elements. The abstract should be there. Next slide, sir. Problem statement, critically important. Never write it very well. Here, it should do no compromise on the language and the statement. Try to give as much information in the crux you are following it. If you need to illustrate with some illustrations, do that. Demand and demonstrate that the unmet need is pressing, and our science is going to address that. Next slide, sir. When you write your proposal, never have multiple goals. Initially, try to take one indication at a time. Don't take that I'm going to develop a diagnostic kit and a drug for that. Never. You should try to focus on one problem and try to follow a solution and work on that line. Don't diverse your goals into two different aspects. So you should be really working on one agenda or one goal to take it forward. Next slide, please. So this I have described. I'll take up some time for questioning. So I will quickly move to the couple of other slides. Next slide, sir. Budget, very important. When you start writing budget, never under budget your proposal. A lot of time people think that if you put a less budget, you might get funded, but never under budget it and never over budget it. We do a lot of good cost challenge within our team. We have good finance people who really cost challenge it and try to rationalize your budget. So whatever you need, rationalize it and give reasons. If you're hiring a GRF or a SRF or a RA or a scientist, there are some standard salaries fixed for that. Never try to hire them at a low salary, but give the right appropriate salary and justify them. Similarly, equipment, put some quotations there that this is the equipment cost and I'm going to buy on that. So I think rationalize your budget, never under budgeted, but never over budgeted. We have a strong cost challenge teams which do that. Next slide, sir. So never submit your application on the last day or the last minute. Never. Initially we used to think that, we used to photocopy and send it hard copies. So your photocopier will break, your net will go down, the lights will go out, the power failure will be there. So never do that in the last moment. So always take time, keep 2-3 days handy, write your proposal, read it multiple number of times, make yourself comfortable and submit 2-3 days or 4 days before the deadline ends. You will be comfortable, you will have peace of mind. Next slide, sir. What do you mean by recycle or rejected proposals? Sometimes the proposal, if you're not gets through, these days funding agencies give you a lot of comments that why your proposal was. A lot of people receive these comments positively and some of them receive negatively as well. The people who we have seen received positively have taken these positive feedback very seriously. They try to incorporate it. And a lot of times when they come back with those incorporated suggestions or ideas, in the next round they get funded. Not always, but number of times we have seen they get funded. So I think take it very positively and work around that. That will really help you to improve your. It's not always possible to run through the first round itself. To take it very positively, and try to incorporate that. Call people in the funding agencies, talk to them what was these lacunas and things like that, how to improve it, and really support that and take it to the next level. Next slide, sir. I think I am coming to the end of my proposal. So these are a couple of examples. I think this was a very important example of Smart Cane, which came out from IIT Delhi, which academics environment like you generated this idea. And then what happened was the idea of telling you the story was you should look at team working when you look at your scientific proposals. You should not always think that you can do everything alone. Try to, as Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir was mentioning, cross-disciplinary approach in scientific research is really important these days. Doctors, engineers, public health professionals, biochemists, scientists, all working together, and if they create a team around themselves, if the scientific rationale demands so, I think it will be a very good approach. And this was one of such examples where a core academics group got in touch with the biomedical engineering group, then a company outside Chennai, and then the National Association of Blinds or the Saksham Trust, and then they developed this device. This device which is in this gentleman's hand, it's called the Smart Cane for visually challenged people. Globally, it was a very challenge available at a very cost. But the group in India with IIT and Phoenix Medical System and Saxum devised this mechanism, and it was funded through Wellcome Trust. And it was really affordable, and it came out for almost 3,500 rupees in India, which is globally around $300+. So I think such type of innovations, but it was academics couldn't have able to take it alone. But the industry, with the academia, with the biomedical engineering groups, and the validation partners. You need an academic group, you need an industry to make it, you need validation partners to validate it. A drug discovery group discovers the drug. The industry makes a large quantity of it, but you need to do a clinical trial. So you need to get into a medical school or a group which can run a clinical trial. So you need to build a team around your scientific rationale. Then you will feel your story is becoming complete. Next slide, sir. So this is what I was telling you, that you need to think about all these aspects when you write a grant application. You may not have those ideas, but you can say that you will try to get in. You will try to get in those expertise, those people into the team where you will bring those ideas into the thing. Next slide, sir. So this is not my slide again. This is not my slide. And so what is a good and a bad grant application? I will not read it out, but you can find it out from this. So what is a good and a bad? Yeah. So you need to really balance your application to show that. Next slide, sir. And I think that's the end. So these are my contact details. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'll happy to do it. But as you can get it through Professor Shenoy, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor's office will be happy to support it. I'll stop here. If there are any questions, I'll take up, or I will go to Sanjay's presentation, and then we can take questions. Whatever is comfortable to you, Professor Shenoy. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful presentation, and I'm sure it is an eye-opener for all those who are keen from Rajiv Gandhi University to take up the research grants. I think it will be very helpful for them. It is something like hand-holding and guiding them. I think this recording also will be viewed many times by our faculty and students who are interested in research. So the first question we have here, can we take it up, sir, now?
It is up to you, sir. If you want to take it now, or you want to club it at the end with Dr. Sanjay, I'm happy to do either way, sir. It's up to you. If you want to take one or two questions now, and then ask Sanjay to present it, and then
we can take up one or two just now, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
There is one question from a faculty who is asking: can research projects also be a part of PhD work?
So, see, research projects. It is up to the academic institutes who will decide whether that research project. But for us, and we have a lot of funding, programs, and again, Sanjay is going to talk about it, where an individual can apply, or an academic institute can apply for that grant. If that research projects get funded, and the academic institute where it is working can host that research projects, and some of the part of the research projects can be a part of the PhD for publication, I don't see personally any problem into it. But it again looks at the institute's rules and regulations where he is working. But we have a lot of programs. I think Sanjay has programs on Sparsh and other things he's going to speak about, where the students can take up programs and can work around that. So if that gets converted into his PhD thesis, I think it's up to the institute and his guide to take it up.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, does BIRAC fund for basic infrastructure requirements of the research project?
So I will ask you to park this question till Sanjay finishes his presentation. And once you have all the pots of funding seen to you, we can answer this question. Or your questions will be answered after Sanjay's presentation, I think so.
Sure, sir. I think we'll take up the next questions after Dr. Sanjay's presentation is over. We'll
sure.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful talk, sir. And I think this will be referred back to again and again. The YouTube channel, they will keep on referring to it. And now I welcome Dr. Sanjay Saxena. Sanjay Saxena is working as a general manager, head investment at BIRAC, a public sector enterprise set up by Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, as an interface agency to stimulate, foster, and enhance the strategic research and innovation capabilities of Indian biotech industry, particularly startups and SMEs, for creation of affordable products. His prime responsibility is grant management under various funding schemes such as Small Business Innovation Research Initiative, Biotechnology Industry Partnership Program, promoting academic research conversion to enterprise, social innovation program for products affordable and relevant to social health, etc. Dr. Saxena will be talking to us on most of the schemes which are available under BIRAC, and also I think more focus will be towards health institutions. So I request Dr. Saxena to take over.
Thank you, Dr. Shinoy. I have mailed my presentation. Would it be possible for you to run it from your end, or should I?
No, I'll do it, sir. Just give me a minute. I'll do it, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Shinoy, and good afternoon to all of you. Today I'm going to share with you some of the funding opportunities that BIRAC offers to academia as well as individuals and startups. I'm going to keep my presentation for about 40-45 minutes, and thereafter we are going to have a short question answer session. So next slide, please. Okay, as you're aware that Indian biotech market is really galloping these days. It was close to $44 billion in 2017, but in a short span of time, in just 3 years, we are now at 63 billion, and it is hoped that by 2025, we are going to cross over $100 billion. So a lot of opportunities, and the market is huge, and the government is making every possible effort to promote this. And in fact, the figures which I have indicated here are very conservative ones. It is envisaged that by 2025, we are likely to touch 150, but these are all estimates. If you go by what has been published, we will still retain the figure of close to $100 billion. Next slide, please. Coming down to what BIRAC is doing in achieving this target. As you are all aware, that biotech sector is extremely challenging because of the fact that it's investment heavy. There's a high element of risk. The gestation period is extremely long. If you compare it with IT sector, certainly. The success rate is also relatively low, as you are aware that if you are talking of a new molecule which could possibly be used as a drug or a vaccine, yeah, the success rate is extremely low. Although very rewarding, that goes without saying. But keeping in view all the risks and the challenges, it's really difficult for an entrepreneur to get into this sector so easily. And it is with because of this reason that Government of India decided to set up BIRAC, which is a not-for-profit Section 8 company set up by Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology in 2012. So it is for roughly 8 years that BIRAC has been in existence. And the primary reason for setting up BIRAC is to support the startups, entrepreneurs, and small-scale enterprises to develop affordable biotech products and technologies. So our entire focus is on development of biotech-related products and technologies. How we really do that It's by creating a right environment, providing all kind of facilities in terms of incubation space, mentorship, both technical and business, and last but not the least, the funds, which come largely in the form of grant. Now, what is it that we support? Like we are supporting practically every aspect of biotechnology, ranging from healthcare, agriculture, industrial biotechnology, waste management, sanitation, so on and so forth. So practically every aspect of biotechnology is supported by BIRAC. Next slide, please. Next. Okay, whom do we support? We support individuals, startups, SMEs, biotech companies, research institutions, universities, NGOs, societies. So practically any individual or enterprise or an organization or university can avail funding from BIRAC. And what is it that we support? Right from idea to commercialization. So we have got schemes which support an idea to proof of concept. There are other schemes which support proof of concept to validation, and there are other schemes which take care of the pre-commercialization requirements. So if you would see that even if you have got an idea, even that could be supported by BIRAC. Next slide, please. Now, this slides provide a snapshot of the various schemes of BIRAC, which includes SIP, SISTI, BIG, UIC, SIPRI, CRS, BIPP, and right from ideation stage to market. So these are the different schemes, and I'm going to talk about these schemes, especially those which would be relevant to you. I'm not going to talk about all the schemes, but certainly those which would be relevant for an institution like yours. Next slide, please. The first scheme that I am going to talk about is the Biotechnology Ignition Grant, what we call it as the BIG. And this is basically an early stage grant scheme, which means that if you have got an idea and you want to take that idea for generation of proof of concept, this is the scheme which you can really opt for. Now, it gives you the flexibility in the sense that even an individual or a researcher can apply under the BIG scheme. There are 2 calls in a year. These are announced on 1st of January and 1st of July. Until date, 17 calls for proposals have so far been announced. Under the scheme, each innovator receives up to 50 lakhs of rupees, and the duration of the project has to be 18 months or less. The scheme is currently managed through our BIG partners, whose job is basically to provide grantee with all kinds of mentoring, monitoring, support, and all related facilities. Although, as I said, that the call is announced on 1st of July, but this time because of COVID, the launch of the 17th call was deferred by a month, and the call was announced on 1st of August. We move on to the next slide, please. Now, who all are eligible to apply under the scheme? This includes, individuals as well as companies. Now, when we talk of individuals, it is the students, academicians, researchers, scientists, both from public and private universities or research organizations can apply. Now, the details of this are available on BIRAC website. You can refer to the scheme document. However, if you feel that you need certain clarifications, please feel free to write to us. The important requirement here is that if it's an individual applicant, then the PI must be incubated in a recognized incubator. This is a very important requirement. Now, besides individual, even the companies are allowed to apply under the big scheme. However, it is important to note that any startup must not be incorporated prior to 5 years from the date of closing of a particular big call. So the startup must be less than 5 years old from the closing date of the call for proposals. So these are the two major requirements. One is incubation in a recognized incubator. And secondly, the startup must be less than 5 years old. Can we move on to the next slide, please? I was referring to the 17th call. And for those who want to take advantage of it, this call is still open and shall remain so till 15th of September up to 5:30 p.m. And proposals are invited in the field of healthcare, life sciences, diagnostics, medical devices, drugs, vaccines. And as mentioned earlier, both individual entrepreneurs as well as the startups are eligible to apply under the scheme. In fact, I would like to mention here that although we support all aspects of biotechnology, a major chunk of our funds go to healthcare related activities. And within healthcare, it is the devices and the diagnostics, which is the most favored thematic area. And under this, we receive maximum proposals. And one of the reasons that we have analyzed that, in devices and diagnostics, one can come up with results much quicker. So the gestation period is relatively short as compared to drugs and vaccines and clinical trials, etc. So that's how a good number of entrepreneurs are opting for development of new devices and diagnostics. And many of them are, in fact, not even from biotechnology background. They are engineers from IITs. Of course, they do seek help of people from medical background. So they are a part of the investigating team, but the PI himself or herself is from an engineering institute. Next slide, please. So far as the highlights of the schemes are concerned, in BIG, till date, more than 6,000 proposals have been received. So that gives you an idea that in 16 calls, more than 6,000 proposals have been received, out of which more than 550 proposals have been supported. And if I could share with you the latest figures, in the last call, close to 650 proposals were received, out of which 60 odd proposals were finally recommended for funding. So the success rate is close to 9 or 10%, but with every call, this success rate is going down because the number of proposals that we are receiving nowadays is really going up exponentially, and the success rate is gradually coming down because we are not able to support too many projects because of the budgetary constraints. But yes, in each call, roughly 60 proposals. It's not a fixed number. It all depends on the quality of the proposals. But if I could share the average figure, it's about 9 to 10%. From this scheme, more than 50 products have been developed. And as you would see, that more than 275 crores have so far been spent on supporting these 550 projects. Next slide, please. Now, I'm going to use this term technology readiness level, TRL, very often in my presentation. So that's why I thought that I should explain you what this TRL is. Technology readiness level basically refers to the stage of technology development. TRL1 is the lowest in the scale. This is the stage when you are at just thinking of an idea. You are not sure how you want to move forward, and then from TRL1 you move to TRL2, which is the basic research. TRL3 stage refers to generation of proof of concept. And in most of the projects, this is the minimum requirement that we have. So if you may be starting at TRL1, but it's important that the end point of the study has to be TRL3 and above. And gradually you move up, that is TRL4, 5 basically refers to early stage research. And then TRL6, 7 is the validation stage. TRL8 is pre-commercialization, and TRL9 is the commercialization of the product. So this is something kindly bear in mind as I proceed further. I'm going to use this term TRL, and TRL1 minimum and TRL9 is the highest, that is the commercialization stage. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to talk about the I4 scheme, which is intensifying the impact of industrial innovation. Now this scheme has got two components, SIBRI and BIPP. Now SIBRI basically supports development of products and technologies which has an endpoint up to TRL6 or below. So this is basically meant for early stage research by the industry. Academia cannot be the primary applicant for either of the two schemes. These two schemes are primarily meant for the industry. So anything falling TRL6 or below would be considered under the SIBRI scheme, while anything which has got TRL7 and above would be considered under the BIPP scheme. Now, there are some differences in the funding pattern. So besides TRL, the funding pattern in the two are little different. In case of SIBRI, if the project cost is 50 lakhs, 100% of the funds are provided by BIRAC in the form of grant. And anything over and above 50 lakhs, the cost is shared equally. So to give you an example, if the total cost of the project is 100 lakhs, 75 lakhs would be put in by BIRAC and 25 lakhs needs to be contributed by the company. However, if somebody is applying under BIPP scheme, which is meant for TRL7 and above, which means validation and pre-commercialization stage, then irrespective of the project cost, the company is required to put in 50% of the project cost. So it doesn't matter whether the project cost is 50 lakhs or 100 lakhs or 200 lakhs, the company is required to put in 50% of the project cost. Now, in both the cases, there is no ceiling so far as the budget is concerned. Although academia cannot be the primary applicant, but we encourage the industry to seek support of academia if required. So, academic institutions or universities cannot be PI, but they can always participate as a collaborator. And as collaborator, they would be receiving 100% of the funds in the form of grant directly from BIRAC. Academic institutions are not required to make any contribution in either of the two schemes. So the funds will come to you directly from BIRAC in the form of grant. Next slide, please. So the idea behind telling you about these scheme is that in case if you feel that you can contribute by joining hands with an industry, certainly you can do so. Now I'll talk about some of the features of the two schemes. SIBRI is one of the kind of first, in fact, not one of the, in fact, this was the first scheme actually launched by Department of Biotechnology way back in 2005. So you can imagine it was almost 15 years back that the scheme was launched under the public-private partnership. And the objective was to support early stage research undertaken by the startups on the industry. Now, in BIPP as well as SIBRI, there are 3 calls for proposals announced each year in the month of February, June, and October. Each call remains open for 45 days. And we have got 2 types of calls announced. One is the regular call and the other one is the challenge-based call. In regular call, it is the PI or the applicant who takes a call on the research area in which he or she would like to submit a proposal. So we do not impose any restrictions. It is the PI who takes a call. He or she decides on the research area in which he or she would like to submit a proposal. And they have the complete freedom to decide the scheme as well as the nature of the proposal. Now, you are going to decide that whether you would like to submit any research idea under SIBRI or BIPP, depending upon the product development stage. As I mentioned earlier, that if it is TRL 6 or below, you apply under SIBRI, or if it is on the higher level, then you apply under the BIPP scheme. Now, what are the challenge calls? In challenge calls, BIRAC, in consultation with the technical experts, we decide on the research priorities, and the applicant can apply only in those selected areas. So, this is something that one should really look for. Many times it has been seen that the applicants do not even care to see that whether the call is a regular one or a challenge one. Without referring to the RFP, they simply submit the proposal, and it has been seen that whenever we announce a challenge call, a good number of proposals are out of scope, largely because the applicants do not even care to read that whether it is a challenge call or a regular call. So please, all those who are interested in submitting a proposal, please refer to the scheme document as well as the RFP, which is available on BIRAC website, to ensure that the call is a regular or a challenge one, and accordingly submit your research proposals. As mentioned earlier, there is no ceiling with regard to the total cost of the project. Next slide, please. Well, this is something I have already covered, gave you an example, and as mentioned, the collaborative projects, if they involve any academic collaborator, the entire cost is borne by BIRAC, which is over and above the amount that is given to the industry. Next slide. This is to give you an idea that, how many calls have been announced. These are the figures which are for the last 3 years. This is not since inception. These are the figures for the last 3 years. In last 3 years alone, about 180 new projects have been supported. So roughly 30 to 40 projects are supported each year. So if we are saying 40 projects a year in 3 calls, so roughly 13 to 14 projects, but there is no thumb rule. It is entirely on the merit of the proposals that we take a call. If the quality of the proposals are good, we can go much beyond this. So that there is no restriction as such. Then there are some other figures. Because of paucity of time, it would be good that we move on to the next slide. Would like to spend more time on interacting with you and answering your queries. So next slide, please. Yeah, BIPP is the scheme which is primarily meant for validation, scaling, and commercializing. This scheme was launched in 2009, and here the proposals that are considered must have an endpoint at TRL 7 or above. Now, whether it is BIPP or SIBRI, the IP rights are always with the industry. Although BIRAC is providing all kind of funds, we do not, stake any claim on the IP rights. The IP rights will remain with the industry. Move on to the next slide, please. One interesting feature of BIPP scheme is, and I think this should interest you, especially the category 3A, which pertains to evaluation and validation of already existing products and including clinical trials. Now, clinical trials involve huge costs, but in BIPP, we do not have any ceiling, and we support even the clinical trials. In fact, we have already done and supported such kind of trials in several cases. So this is something that you should look for. And under category 1, 2, 3A and 3B, all the funds are released in the form of grant. Category 4 is the only one wherein the funds are provided in the form of loan. Now, there are very few facilities that we have supported because there is a huge cost involved in it. The details are available on BIRAC website, but still we are quite open to the ideas in case if you feel like applying under the category 4, certainly you are welcome to do so. Next slide, please. Oh, seems to be some problem there. I think we can skip this. Probably something has gone wrong. Now, till January 1st, 2020, that is the beginning of the current calendar year, the royalty component was associated with only one BIPP scheme. But from 1st of January 2020, irrespective of the scheme, royalty component has been introduced, which means that as and when you come up with a product and you launch it, 5% of the annual net sales of the product developed with BIRAC support. So that doesn't mean that the company has to give 5% of its total turnover. No, it is 5% of the net sales of the product developed through BIRAC support is to be paid back to BIRAC as royalty. And this royalty will fall due with the beginning of the first sale of the product and shall terminate once the total amount that the company has received in the form of grant and aid is equal. So suppose if you are, again, I'll explain it with very specific figures. If you have received a grant of 100 lakhs, so you start paying 5% royalty, and once the amount reaches to 100 lakhs, that is, it is equal to the grant that the company has received from BIRAC, automatically the royalty payment would stop. Next slide, please. Now, PACE is one. This is a scheme primarily meant for academia. Although, as I mentioned earlier, that BIRAC has always been promoting development of products and technologies, and we feel that industry can play a leading role. But then, academia has its own importance. They have been coming up with all kind of high-end technologies, which I don't think the industry can manage or an entrepreneur can manage. And it was basically for this reason that the PACE scheme was launched. Now, this PACE scheme, which is primarily meant for the academic and the research institutions, has got two components. The first one is the academic innovation research, what we call it as the AIR scheme, and the second is the contract research scheme, or the CRS. Now, the AIR scheme promotes development of proof of concept for a process or a product by academia with or without the involvement of industry. So we would be happy if the industry is associated from the very beginning, but the call has to be taken by the academic institutions. If they so desire, they can involve the industry, otherwise they need not. And this is for an early stage research, primarily meant for generation of proof of concept. Now, contract research scheme, or the CRS, this scheme is primarily meant for validation of a process or a prototype developed by the academia, but the validation is to be done by the industrial partners. So in contract research scheme, the involvement of an industrial partner is a must. While in AIR, it is optional, but in CRS, involvement of industrial partner is a must. So the end point of AIR scheme is the starting point for the CRS scheme. So the entire chain has been so developed that for every stage, you will find that there is some or the other scheme under which you will have the option to apply for funding. And as you would see, in AIR scheme, which is from TRL1 to TRL3, CRS is something where, the proof of concept which has been generated under the AIR scheme can be validated by the industry. So it is from CRS3 to CRS5 or TRL6. And TRL6 would mean that the technology has already been validated by the industry to a very large extent. And if they want to carry out further validation, the industry takes over and they have the option to apply under the BIPP scheme. And there are other schemes beyond BIPP. So right from TRL1 to TRL3, TRL3 to TRL6, and then from TRL6, the industry takes over under the BIPP scheme. Next slide, please. Now, what type of projects are supported under the AIR scheme? Please take note of it because this scheme is quite relevant for all of you. Projects with well-established proof of principle leading to development of a prototype of a product or a technology. Now, it is important to note that you can't start from the scratch. You must have generated the proof of principle. That means some basic studies must have had been performed, which must be included in your research proposal. So it cannot be from the scratch. And second thing that we really look into is that whether that product or the technology that you are going to work on, does it have any commercial potential or national relevance? So in a way, what we are talking about is that it has to be an applied research. Basic and exploratory research without well-established proof of principle with low or no commercial potential is not supported by BIRAC. For that, you can approach DBT or other funding agencies. Now remember one thing, while in BIPP, we may be asking you to provide us with your business plan and other things, but in this case, there's no such requirement. What we really look for is the technology proposed, does it have any commercial potential? So we are only talking of potential, not a full-fledged business plan. Incidentally, here we have a ceiling on the duration of the project. We expect the PI to complete the study within 18 months. And there is a ceiling on the total cost of the project also, that is 50 lakhs. So no project can be more than 50 lakhs. And the non-recurring component must not exceed 10% of the total cost. Again, to give you a very specific example, if the total cost of the project is 40 lakhs, because under no circumstances it can exceed 50. So if the total cost of your project is 40 lakhs, at best you can have equipment worth 4 lakh rupees. And you may be wondering, in fact, this was a question posed earlier, that, what kind of support we provide, because it is assumed that if you have generated the proof of principle with respect to a particular research problem, you would be having the basic infrastructure to undertake the research. So the grant and the ARS scheme is not meant for infrastructure creation. It is basically that whatever you have in your lab and you feel that it has got some commercial potential, here there is an opportunity that through the funding support from BIRAC, you can explore the possibility of getting it commercialized. In fact, there are several institutes, including IITs and many universities, who are now encouraging even their faculty members to set up their own enterprise. So there is a faculty which would be teaching during the, devoting certain number of hours as faculty in the academic institution. And then at the same time, they are also contributing to their own enterprise, which is incubated within the organization, because most of the IITs nowadays have their own incubators. So, it's doing research and at the same time also gradually looking for opportunities for commercialization, and it is happening within the premises of the same university or the research institute. The IP rights, if there is no industry involved, will remain with the academia. However, if there is an industry involved, then it is entirely between the academia and the industry to take a call as to who will owe the rights. BIRAC doesn't impose any restriction on that. Next slide, please. Who can apply? Yes, it's primarily meant for academia. As I said, it could be a public or private institute, university or research organization, who would be the primary applicant. And this application can be submitted either individually or jointly with another academic or industrial partner. So it is not necessary that you cannot join hands with other academic institutions. If you so desire, two independent academic institutions can also join hands and submit a proposal. So you have the option along with academia or industry. Next slide, please. One thing I would like to mention here, that wherever you decide to involve an industry, please take note of two important things. First is that the company must be registered under the Indian Companies Act 2015. This is very important. And second thing is that the company must be an Indian company. We do not support any foreign partner. The funds are primarily meant for the Indian companies, and this is established by their nationality through passport. So NRIs will not be considered as, will not be eligible to apply and avail BIRAC support. The applicant must be an individual with Indian passport. Other categories are not recognized as Indian citizens. So far as grant is concerned. Now coming back to the contract research scheme, which is the next stage after a year. In in CRS scheme, we primarily focus on those projects where the proof of concept has already been generated by the academia, and they are looking for opportunities for validation by the industry. So that's how the scheme was coined. It's as contract research scheme. So suppose any one of you has already developed a prototype and you want to get it tested or validated by the industry. Now this is important because the academic institutions usually find it difficult to undertake validation on their own. This has to be done by the industry, and the industry will not come forward to take the product unless and until it has satisfied itself. So that's how this scheme was created, that okay, if something good is available with the academic institution, let it be validated by the industrial partner first. And once the industrial partner gets convinced about the technology, then obviously the industry will take it forward. So under this scheme, we support both academia as well as the industry. All the funds are provided in the form of grant. And in this particular scheme, even the industrial partner is not required to put in any money. They are not required to make any contribution. So all the funds are given in the form of grant by BIRAC. The primary applicant would remain, academia will remain as the primary applicant, and they can have one or more partners, out of which at least one has to be the industry which would be carrying out the validation. The IP rights will remain with the academia. However, the industrial partner will have the first right for refusal for commercial exploitation of the new IP, which comes as a consequence of this study. Next slide, please. Well, this is just to give you an idea of the kind of projects that we have supported. More than 100 projects have been supported so far since inception, including 85 academic institutes, and a good number of them are from IITs and Indian Institute of Sciences, NCL, and other premier institutions. Besides academic institute, more than 33 companies have been supported. And you might be wondering, that only 7 technologies and products. This is largely because in PACE, it is the early stage research that we support. So we don't expect too many products to come up. These 2 schemes are primarily to lay down the foundation. A majority of the products come out through SIBRI and the BIPP schemes, which are largely managed by the industry. They are the PIs. So that's where we expect. But yes, in certain cases, good progress have been made and technologies developed. Another important thing here is that there is no restriction on the duration of the project. Unlike here, where we have a ceiling of 18 months in CRS, there is no such restriction. So if you feel that the study should be of a longer duration, you're welcome. But otherwise, I may share with you, majority of the projects that are supported by BIRAC are in the range of 24 months, 30 months at best. There are very, very few projects supported by BIRAC which are of longer duration, because we expect that the projects that are supported by us should be able to deliver products or technologies in a shorter duration. We are not really looking for something which will come after 7 years or 10 years. No, not really. Next slide, please. Would be a little faster now. This is to inform you that a call for BIP, SIBRI, and CRS is on. Unfortunately, there are not too many days left. Today is already 28th, and the call will close on 31st of August. So you've got just 3 days. And this is a challenge call. So please refer to the RFP because the priority areas have been described there, and only if you are convinced about it that you have got a research problem in mind which falls under the priority areas identified by us, you are welcome to submit a proposal. But remember, please submit your proposal by 5:30. The scheme will close on 31st of August at 5:30 sharp. Next slide, please. Okay, this is, I think I have already shared with you that, the company must be registered under the Companies Act. And in case if it is a university, then it should be fully recognized. And the 51% of the shares must be held by Indian citizens, basically the Indian passport holders. One important thing is that the applicant company should have either an in-house facility, research facility, or they should be incubated in a recognized incubator. Now, how do we ensure? I will be discussing with you when we talk about the in-house research facility. But yeah, this is one of the options available to the company. Next slide, please. This we have already discussed that in the AIR scheme, the endpoint has to be TRL3, at least TRL3 or above. In SIBRI, the endpoint has to be TRL6, and in TRL7, and in case of BIPP and CRS, the endpoint has to be TRL7 and above. So the three schemes take care of both early and late stage research in industry as well as academia. So I'm sure that under, whether you are an academia or an industry, you can apply in any of the four schemes. So some other scheme will definitely be suitable for you. Next slide, please. Okay, one question was, can the grant be used for fellowship? I'm afraid, you can use the funds for, as research fellowship, but as I mentioned that under AIR scheme, the duration of the project is only 18 months. And I'm not too sure that those 18 months would be sufficient for any PhD student to complete his or her PhD research, because usually it's 3 years plus. And under AIR, there is no provision to extend the project duration. It remains at 18 months. So we leave it for the PI to take a call. There's no restriction, but it is unlikely that one would be able to complete the entire research within those 18 months. And second thing is that the research which we really support is purely applied. And I wonder if any PhD student would be comfortable in holding its research, not publishing his paper, and getting, focusing in a way that a product comes out of it. Usually the trend is that as soon as you complete your research, you want to publish it. And if you publish it, then you are making everything public. You can't have the patent rights. And then, we do not impose any restrictions, but I'm sure that there won't be too many takers with such restrictions. Next slide, please. This is one scheme that, this is a very interesting scheme actually. It is a social innovation program for products and affordable and relevant to societal health. This is a SPURGE program. As the name goes, it's a social innovation program. And here, we support projects with social relevance But again, it has to be through biotechnological interventions. Anything which does not involve biotechnology is not supported by us. That goes without saying. It is for all the schemes that I have mentioned. So some biotechnological component has to be there. And SPURGE program has got two components. One is the product development, wherein the products which have got social relevance are supported. And in fact, at the bottom, you could see 4 examples, the 4 products that have been developed through SPURGE support. That is not to say that these are the only 4 products. There are multiple products, but these are some of the major ones which we could accommodate in the slide. Besides the product development, next slide, please. There is a social innovation immersion program. This is an interesting program in the sense that here it is almost like your JRF. So what happens is that this program is implemented through our SPURGE centers, and currently there are 14 SPURGE centers established by BIRAC, under which 70 SPURGE fellows are participating. Each SPURGE center caters to 5 SPURGE fellows. Now, what this program is all about? In the first 5 months of this entire program, the duration of the program is about 18 months. In the first 5 months, you just move around, interact with people, look for a research problem. So, like if you are planning to do something in the area of healthcare, as you would notice here that we have so far supported 6 thematic areas: maternal and child health, aging and health, food and nutrition, waste to value, environmental pollution, agri-tech, etc., etc. And there are others too. Now, if suppose you want to work in the area of healthcare, because that would be of relevance, you are provided with an opportunity to move to the hospitals, interact with the doctors, and in the first 5 months, you take a call and you decide on the research area in which you would like to pursue your career. So you identify 3 or 4 or 5 potential research problems, and after 5 months, there is a committee which involves a technical expert, which involves a representative from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, who are our knowledge partners, and others who will guide you that out of the 3 or 4 or 5 research problems, which is the most suited for you, taking into account the technical problems, the IP-related issues, and the future market, competition that you may face, and all these factors are taken into account, and the SPURGE fellow is then advised to take up 1 research problem out of 4 or 5 that were shortlisted. Over the next 10 months, you develop a prototype, try to validate it. So in 18 months' time, you have got a product or a technology or a prototype. I don't think that in 18 months, although there are some who have been able to develop a complete product during these 18 months, but at least a prototype is expected after 18 months of immersion. So during the course of immersion period, you get 50,000 rupees per month as fellowship. There is also a provision of 5 lakh rupees as a mini kickstart grant. And of course, you get full support from the SPURGE centers for technical, commercial, financial, IP-related mentoring. And as mentioned earlier, this program is implemented through 14 SPURGE centers which have been created by us. Next slide, please. Well, this is just to show you an impact of the scheme in last 3 years. As you would see that more than 55 projects have been supported, which have resulted in 8 products which have been commercialized. I'm not getting into the details of it because all of this is available on BIRAC website. Next slide, please. Quickly about the evaluation process, we receive all the proposals online. Next slide, please. Won't take very long. In 5 minutes, I would like to wrap this up. This is something we have already discussed, that there are 3 calls for WIP, SIBRI, and PACE that are announced in a calendar year. The proposals are received online. As soon as the proposals are received, we carry out an eligibility check to ensure that the applicant is eligible for that particular scheme. Once the eligibility check has been performed, the proposals are assigned to the subject experts for their comments. Each proposal is assigned to at least 4 or 5 subject experts who would review the proposal and give their comments. The parameters that are looked into for evaluation involves the scientific merit, innovation, the national and social relevance, and the commercial potential. So based on all this, and of course, one of the important things which I would like to mention is the preliminary data that has been generated by the applicant. So these 4 or 5 parameters are looked into, and the comments received from the reviewers are presented to the area review panel, which again consists of 15 to 20 technical experts. The ARP then identifies or shortlists the proposals to be called for a presentation before the technical expert committee. This TEC meets on a monthly basis, consists of 21, 22 experts, and we have the freedom. At times we are inviting even more, but at least that many experts would be there. So based on the recommendation of the area review panel, the tech will call the PIs of the shortlisted proposals for presentation. And then based on the presentations, the TEC would recommend the proposals for a site visit. Now, till we had this COVID situation, there would be a regular site visit in the sense that 2 technical experts would visit the project site to see the kind of infrastructure and other facilities available with the PI to execute the project. And due diligence is carried out, both technical and for financial strength of the company. And based on the recommendation of the site visit committee, the tech would then take a call and shortlist the proposal for final approval by the Apex committee, which is chaired by the chairperson BIRAC, which is also the secretary DVD. So in all, it takes about 5 months to complete the evaluation process, which happens in 4 stages, right from initial evaluation by the subject experts, the ARP, then technical expert committee, the presentation by the PIs and a site visit, and finally the decision is taken by the Apex committee. Next slide, please. Okay, this is something we have already discussed. Next slide, please. Now, once the project has been sanctioned, there are, you don't get the funds on a yearly basis. These funds, the release of funds is linked to the accomplishment of the milestones. Now, how do we decide that the particular milestone has been accomplished? This is done by the PMC, that is the Project Monitoring Committee. So for each project, there are 2 PMC experts attached whose job is not only to review the progress of the project, but also to advise and to mentor the PIs. So there are 3 ways by which we carry out the evaluation. One is through online system, that is the project, the milestone completion report is assigned to the PMC experts who would evaluate the report and give their ideas. The other is that you may be asked to to make a presentation before the technical expert committee. And the third option is that two PMC experts will visit the site and see how the progress is. So this is basically the procedure or the process followed for monitoring of the projects. Next slide, please. That's how the funds are dispersed. We give 30% of the project costs upfront for a project more than 12 months, and risks are dispersed in 4 or 5 installments depending upon the overall duration. So if it is less than 12 months, the funds would be dispersed in 4 installments, and if it is more than 12 months, then it would be dispersed in 5 installments. And remember, each payment is made only on the accomplishment of the milestone. So if the PI fails to accomplish what it was expected to, the expert committee can simply foreclose the project. So it is not that once the project gets sanctioned, the applicant would be provided with funds for the entire duration. No, if the progress is not satisfactory, the committee may simply foreclose the project. And there are instances where the projects have been foreclosed. Next slide, please. Okay, I'll treat as the final slide, although there are a couple of more, but for want of time, I would like to stop here. PCP is one particular scheme wherein all projects which have already achieved TRL 7, that means the validation process has already been completed, and they are encountering some difficulty to enter the market, and they are looking for some kind of a support. This support need not necessarily be in terms of finances. It could be technical support, it could be IP related support, or any support that may be needed to get the product commercialized is made available under the scheme. So this is meant for the last stage, that after the validation process, if you come across with any hurdle, then this is the program under which you can get the funds. There are other schemes too, like shall we run through? I won't explain much. Maybe I cover it in 2 minutes. Next slide, please, Saksha. Okay, next, hurriedly. Beside funds, I would like to mention that BIRAC has established 50 bio incubators. So, like if we not only provide you with the funds, there are also bio incubators established all over the country. There are 50 of them. And in Bangalore itself, there are more than one bio incubators available. So in case somebody wants to avail the facilities, and these bio incubators provide the incubation space, equipment, technical marketing, and business mentoring, all kind of support is available in these bio incubators. So CCAMP is the one that you can possibly approach if you want to get yourself incubated in one of the BIRAC supported incubators. Till date, more than 5.5 lakh square feet of space has been created. So there's fair amount of space, equipment, support available. So it's entirely up to you. The funds, as I said, is not a constraint. Funding is available, incubation is available. And besides this, BIRAC also provide all kind of IP support which may be needed to ensure that you are not violating on any existing IP rights. And once you have been able to come up with a new product or a technology, it also helps you in filing of a new IP so that your rights are protected. Next slide, please. These are some other equity schemes which are available. Please refer to the BIRAC website for details. Under seed scheme, financial support, this is all in the form of equity. Up to 30 lakhs is provided to the startups. In fact, all the 3 schemes mentioned here are meant for for the companies and the startups. So you can get up to 30 lakhs under the seed fund, up to 1 crore under the leaf fund, and you can get a support up to 7 crores through ACE fund. So a lot of opportunities available. And next slide, please. Okay, next. This is the scheme where you have the option for filing of patents. It's all managed by Dr. Mukherjee. So if you are keen in filing a patent, this is the scheme you can opt for. I'm sorry, for want of time, I'm not getting you the details of it. I've already taken roughly an hour. So that is it. That's where I would like to stop and would like to take questions from you. Please. Diksha, can we put on the last slide, which will provide details of the telephone number and the email? That's it. So whatever I could cover during this duration would be shared with you. But in addition, if you want to gather more information, you can kindly log on to our website or can write to us. Although phone number has been provided by, I'm afraid that currently we are operating from home. We may not be in a position to attend to your calls. So it's better that you write to us. Would be happy to address your queries. Or if you wish to seek any clarifications, please feel free to write to us. So one thing I would like to add here, that I mentioned that the funding opportunities are primarily meant for the Indian companies, but yes, there are several programs managed by Dr. Mukherjee, wherein others can also take advantage of it. He has got multiple programs that he's running. And unfortunately, like the time, because of the time constraint, we can't cover everything. We are into so many activities that it's difficult for anyone to sum up everything in a 1 hour presentation. But please do visit to our website and feel free to write to us. We would be too happy to respond to your queries. So with this, I would like to end my presentation, and if there are queries or questions, would be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Saxena. It was a very informative talk, and I'm sure all the participants have got a lot of insights into different schemes being offered by BIRAC. And as a additional this one, I would also suggest many of those who are interested to apply and know more about these incubators, just go and visit C-Camp or Bangalore Bio Innovation Center, which incubates a lot of startups, and visit and have a first-hand information and a fair idea of what is going on there, how they incubate the projects. That will be helpful. And moving on to the next is the questions what we have. I think this question will be towards Dr. Shishendu. Basically, somebody is asking about how to safeguard the patents when you start off with the research projects.
So, thank you, Professor Shenoy. I think the first step when you start working, that's what understanding the problem. If you see the first slide which I presented was how to understand the problem. So there is a concept of called prior art search. Prior art search needs to be done on the problem which you are working. So there are a lot of free websites available, free software is available, like USPTO, India PTO. So you should do a very brief keyword search whether you don't have any infringing patent. And we also do for our innovations as well. So if you require some detailed prior art search, get in touch with us. If you are funded by us, as Sanjay said, we have schemes where we will fund your patents as well. So you should do your prior art search, innovation search, whether it is not a duplicating of any innovation. So there are various mechanisms to do it, and you can yourself also do it very easily. There are a lot of database websites which can do it. So you should do that before you start your understand your problem or create your research plans. Over.
So there is an additional question to this. They're asking, when you go for publications, what are the precautions we need to take about the patenting?
Very good question. Very good question. I think in a lot of institutes and organization, there is a system where we call it potential commercial evaluation of your innovation or your publication. A lot of institutes have those facilities where before you publish your paper, it goes to the IP cell, which looks at whether any IP facilitation can be done for it, whether the work which you have done requires some IP protection or not. And there are and that is again done by these prior art searches. If there is some novelty comes out from your publication, then it is always advisable to file a provisional patent application, which we call it, which is not very costly and not requires detailed completion. So you can immediately file. So never publish it before getting your scientific publication validated for IP. Because once you publish it, not only publish it, never go and speak into any public forum as well, where your abstract get published. So you should always be careful, or talk in any closed door also scientific meetings where who is recording your whose proceedings might be recorded and published later on. So I think you should be very careful. So you should do these novelty searches, prior art searches, and if there is any innovation involved, you should immediately do a provisional specification, provisional patent filing, which is hardly costing, I think 5,000 or 6,000 rupees is the patent office fees. And if you filing fees together, it comes to around 15,000 rupees. You should protect your innovation, and then you have 1 year's time after that to complete your patent filing. So you should do that, and then you can start your publication. So we generally, a lot of institutes do that, and that is a very good idea. If you are interested to know about it, we run a lot of IP clinics and IP workshops. So you can be on the next IP workshop is on 1st of September. Look at our website. We are doing an IP workshop as well. So if you are interested, you can join that. There we are going to talk about how to protect your innovations by patent and other routes. So if you are interested, you can join that as well. It's a free webinar which we are organizing on 1st of September. If you're interested, go to our website and enroll yourself for that.
Thank you, sir. We'll circulate in the group also.
Yeah.
There is a next question, which is again pertaining to patents. They're asking whether BIRAC funds for patenting charges only in India or abroad also.
So BIRAC has a very good patenting program, which Sanjay described, the BIRAC path, which if you are funded by BIRAC in any of the schemes of BIRAC, we will help you not only to file from provisional, do the search, file the provisional specification, file the complete, file the PCT, enter into the national phase in India and abroad, and maintain the patent if it is granted for 3 years. And then within those period, you need to find a commercial partner to exploit or patent. Otherwise, we will not extend. But it is a very good support to all the academic institutes and innovators that BIRAC takes the responsibility of not only helping you to evaluate your innovations, but to file it not only in India, but internationally as well.
Thank you, sir. The next question is about the ethical committee clearances for the research projects. How strictly the projects are reviewed on the ethical committee clearances?
Sanjay, would you like to answer, or I can answer? Sanjay, you're on mute, Sanjay.
Yeah, see, the thing is that it all depends on the nature of the project. For each project, before it is placed for the consideration of the Apex committee, it is routed through a regulatory committee, which looks into all the regulatory requirements for the project. So upfront, we inform the applicant that you would be required to have following regulatory approvals. Like in case of genetically modified crops, you may have to approach RCGM or GAC or whatever it is. Similarly, for medical, there are other regulatory agencies, but everything is conveyed to the applicant upfront. They would know in advance, and if the committee feels that it would be difficult for the PI to organize the desired regulatory approvals within that project duration, the project may not be considered. They may ask the applicant to first complete the regulatory requirements and then come to BIRAC for funding. There are instances, or they may also suggest that, okay, fine, we are giving you 3 months or 4 months to organize the desired regulatory approvals, and only after that, the project would be placed for the consideration of the Apex committee. So after tech, we hold the projects. We do not present it to Apex. We take it to the Apex only when the PI is ready with all the desired regulatory approvals. But yes, to say that BIRAC will help in obtaining regulatory approvals, no, sorry, that BIRAC doesn't do. We can connect you to the regulatory agencies. We can guide you the kind of regulatory approvals that you would be requiring during the course of the study. And, we may also connect you. In fact, there is one program that we have on, that's on second Friday, first half, or the fourth Friday, I'm forgetting, it's the second or the fourth Friday. So where, the PI gets a chance to directly interact with the representatives of the regulatory bodies. So you can place questions before them, and they would be happy to guide you on that. But BIRAC doesn't help you in securing regulatory approvals, no. That is primarily the responsibility of the grantee. But we can tell you that during the study, what sort of approval, this also involve your ethical and others. So because on the nature of the project, there are a whole lot of regulatory approvals that are needed.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from the Aish faculty. They're asking, does BIRAC have any separate guidelines or SOPs for Aish faculty to apply for research projects? Because I think the question may be arising vis-a-vis when we look for the evidence-based medicine kind of thing. When they apply from the Aish faculty, what are the criteria you look for? Means Ayurveda, homeopathy, Unani.
Well, see, we do not have any reservations, but the thing is that it has to be in accordance to the BIRAC guidelines. That's more important, because it cannot be. There is a separate Ayush department, it. I mean, they are already supporting a whole lot of projects. But when it comes to us, if it is just a formulation, because there's no restriction as such, but yes, usually the expert committee members are asking for something which is reproducible, and like the characterization of the active principle has been done. So those are the basic requirements that anyone would be looking for. If it is a pure formulation, I'm not too sure. There is no restriction as such, but yes, the committee members are not very comfortable in supporting such projects.
Thank you, sir. I think we have no more questions right now. And I would like to thank Dr. Mukherjee and Dr. Saxena for an informative talk on the how to write a project grant, and also about the different schemes available. I think now the faculty and students from Rajiv Gandhi University would have more insight into BIRAC projects, and it would be easy for them to approach. And we would also circulate the material what has been provided to us to all the faculty who is interested. It can be hosted on the university websites also. You can log in and check into there. And I thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for facilitating this talk, and Dr. Venkatesh, Director, Advanced Research. And above all, I thank Dr. Anurag Kurpal, basically to facilitate and have these people who are all very busy, and they have agreed to come here. That itself is a great thing. And I think all our faculty and students will make the best use of whatever information they have received today. Thank you, sir. I thank you once again for all the information that has been provided to us.
Well,
Thank you,
it's
sir.
a pleasure. Dr. Shunai, just one request I wanted to make, that with regard to the presentation, maybe my colleagues will share with you a PDF version. So
Yes, sir.
these slides need not be circulated that way. We would
No,
be
sir.
sharing
Already, this recording will be on YouTube. We don't share the content what you have sent
all
here.
right.
We will just access the YouTube directly.
Fine. That's fine. That's okay.
Anura, would you want to add something?
No, sir. Thank you. I learned a lot. So it was very useful.
Same, yes.
And I want to thank good Dr. Shirshendu, who's of course a dear friend, and now a new friend, Dr. Saxena. So thank you.
Pleasure, sir. Pleasure.
Thank you, Anura and Dr. Shenoy, and please convey our thanks to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Chidan, for giving this opportunity to us, to me and my colleague Sanjay, to talk to you about the BIRAC initiative and some of the experience we have in managing grants. I once again thank you, and I think this is not should be a one-end relationship. I think we request all the faculties, students who have joined today to be in touch with us. If they have any queries, write to us. We'll be happy to support and help them in any issues they have in writing their applications. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir. We'll be coming back to you. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.